The first is lamb, out is bigger. This lamb, out is bigger. Last one. Yes, please start.
Good morning, everybody. Our presentation is about Jairpur Foot, which is personally a little close to me in particular because Dr. P.K. Sethi happens to be a family friend. But before we jump into the aspects of Jairpur Foot,
Who is the family friend?
Dr. P.K. Sethi. But before we jump into the details of Jairpur Foot, we'd first like to speak about social innovation. So from whatever readings that Sir ended up giving us, whatever we went through, we realized social innovation is more about developing solutions in order to reach out to the community and in order to facilitate social progress. Now, whether the social innovation is exercised through the exchange of ideas or values, or very often, as especially in case of Jairpur Foot, as we see with the integration of private capital with public and philanthropic support, social innovation has been an area which has been successfully growing across the country through activism, volunteering, microcredit, etc. And these are the kind of things that make us realize that in order to be a part of social innovation, we do not need to leave our mainstream life aside in order to be a part of it. We've also noticed that an increasing number of social incubators rising across the country which have been facilitating a lot of startups and social enterprises in this direction.
And before we come to the problem that Jairpur Foot is facing, we have to talk in general about the global problem of amputation in the world. We have 10 to 25 million of amputees in the world. 10 to 25, it's a wide range because of so many unmeasurable cases in some developing countries. And also the range of the causes why they are amputated are so different in developing and developed countries. Like in developed countries, we have mostly the cases 80% are caused by diseases or like diabetes and everything. And in developing countries, it's completely different, mostly because of landmines and trauma. For landmines, for example, we have 100 million landmines in the whole world, and at least like 10 million we only have in Afghanistan. And for example, Cambodia, there we have as many landmines as people living in the country. That's why the bigger reason for amputation is landmines. And the problem of landmines is that mostly children and women are affected because of the region where they're living. These are war regions, and there are no soldiers anymore, but mostly families living. And another reason for the developed world, now diabetes will increase the number of amputations with more than 100%. It will be like 300 million in 2025, so you see the amount of amputation will increase a lot. And when we come to the cost, for example, in the USA we have costs from $4,000 to $25,000 US. You see it's a huge amount, and only 50% in the United States can afford these costs. So how can developing countries like India can afford at least $4,000 US for one amputation? And before we come to the prostheses which are made today, we have to shortly discuss the development of these. And it started with some wooden and leather cups, and these were really basic products. I will show you a photo on the next slide. And then the first real amputation was 1561 made of iron. And it's very important to say that all the incremental innovations were made through civil wars. So 2 or 3 civil wars in the United States lead to the fact that the prostheses that were developed. So because of the soldiers after the veterans, when they came back, they need more amputations. And that's the reason why in the United States we have some association founded after the Second World War II, which with the target to find a better solution with better products, lighter weighted and everything. And here we see the first model. This is really from the Egyptian mummy. So it was the first amputation that was seen in the world, and it came from the iron to some different materials to the gel and prosthetic light-weighted version that we have today.
And so now coming to Jairpur Foot, and so basically the mission was that they wanted to give hope to the most impoverished with a prosthetic foot that meets the need of people in the like of a developing country lifestyle. And because we've talked a lot about how it originates, the person Ram Chandra as an artist, comes from an artisan background and a sculptor who basically realized that there were some problems with for amputees with the prosthetic foot because they didn't meet the needs of the daily life of, for example, farmers that needed to work in the field. They met with doctors and explored the local materials in order to come up with a solution that is adapted to this background. And then created, so the designers created that NGO, non-profit organization, also called the Society, PMESS, you can see the name there.
No, that's also because it's a registered society. We were having that discussion.
Yeah.
They have organized themselves as a registered society. That's right.
And since then they created 7 centers across India and then several mobile camps all around the world. And in terms of their business model, in terms of design and availability, they created, they were innovative because, as I said already, in terms of the design, people were able to return to their daily livelihoods with the new design of a prosthetic foot that made them able to, for example, work in the fields or walk barefoot. And in terms of availability because the prospective amputees, they're all below the poverty line, so they needed to make it accessible for these. And in terms of funding, as Sanju already said, so it's funded by the government of India and other philanthropic groups.
At the high level, there are 8 steps to follow in the development of Jaipur Foot. The first is design consideration, in which we overcome the constraints like squatting, barefoot, walking on uneven ground. The things are considered. Then second is overcoming constraints like poverty and closed economy, because it is relatively difficult to import foreign goods. The third would be deviation from traditional design. Originally sack design was used, but then they were innovated to knee joint design, which was much more flexible and easy to use. The second was, fourth step is material sourcing. Since it is a low-cost product, products were sourced from Indian products, and they were readily available and cheap. The fifth is production equipment. Usually it costs around $6 to $8 to produce the material, and then the labor was large supply of artisan laborers in India, which were paid around 5,000 per month to put on the foot. Then in fabrication, aluminium cast was used with vulcanized rubber for easy flexibility, and then in fitting of Jaipur Foot, it usually took 3 hours, and they also took care of the psychological needs of the patients for further recovery.
So the social and community outreach, every disabled person can visit a Jaipur center at any time of the day or the night without an appointment, and patients are served with empathy, care and personal attention. One of the concerns of Jaipur Foot is that the dignity and the self-respect of each person must be maintained at all costs, and the organization holds outreach programs to reach out to people, handicapped people who are living in remote areas. So as we said, this amputees program is a very big problem in India, because in 2003 there were 5.5 million of people amputeed, and then it represents almost 6 million of the population, which means almost 0.5% of the population.
Okay, so here we are going to present, to compare the Jaipur Foot with 2 other prostheses in the developed world, which are Bariflex developed by Osur and TrueStep developed by College Park Industries. So these tables compare the most important characteristic of the 3 different prostheses, from general attributes to range of motion such as cost, activity supported, and quality standard. As you can see, the clear different features between these three prostheses are the respective prices and the years of introduction. So as you can see, there is good difference between Jairpur Foot and the two other one. So even if it has been the Jairpur Foot has been introduced 2 decades before its counterpart, it presents an interesting comparison to a price basis, because as you can see, it costs only $30 to produce it, against like 3,000 for Variflex and 2,000 for College Park Foot. So it's a good difference. Jairpur Foot provides an excellent range of dorsiflexion, plantar flexion, inversion, event reversion. So it's like similar for this point, but yes, for the activity supported, they're like similar also, because it succeeds to reach all the aspects it was created, like working in wet fields, walking barefoot, sitting on the floor, or walking on uneven ground and climbing trees. The main difference is about the quality standard, which is different between the developed countries and India, or the country where they want to fight the poverty. So let's speak a little about the different cost structure between Jairpur Foot and one of its competitors, the Variflex. So here you can see that for Jairpur Foot, nearly 90% of its expense were directly related to the cost of the producing and fitting prostheses for the poor, and another 7% is linked to another assistance or help for charitable assistance. So we can see the difference, and we can see that the society expense breakout underscores the efficiency of expense and underpins the efforts to serve as many patients as possible given its financial resources. And after you have Osur, which is the second largest producer of prostheses in the world. It is an Iceland-based and publicly traded company that manufactures and markets all its products in Europe and North America, so it's different targets. So we can see the different cost structure. And the more detailed examination reveals that 21% of Osur expenditure are related to sales and marketing and 9% to development and research. So we don't have this problem for Jairpur Foot. We don't have marketing expense to gain market share. Yes, this is the main difference between the two. Yes. So about the geographical presence. Well, speak a little about that, but how it's organized. Society current method of expanding its system is about the camp system. So, administrators, doctors, technicians, and artisans from the society Jaipur location travel to a predetermined site and set up a temporary facility called a camp. So. A camp is funded by another organization, private organization or governmental, which has invited the Jaipur society. A camp can last from like a few days to several weeks, depending on the number of amputees. It takes about 1 day to set up and half day to close. Usually, the society travels with the expected required materials. Don't have problem of improvisation. All the works of traveling the people who need the Jaipur Foot and all the promotion, all these things are taking into responsibility for the sponsoring organization. So let's speak about. They were like in lots of different countries, like Indonesia, Nigeria, Nepal. You have a list of all these countries here. Let's speak a little about the new permanent location. Even if they have some permanent location like in Delhi or Mumbai, they also facilitate the establishment of new permanent location, and they help this new organization to find a good location for the clinics, to staff the members, and to help them to create this new clinic. And they are going to help them in all the process and send a technician to supervise them and supporting them during all the process.
Since its inception in Jaipur Foot, they have served over 1.55 million people, and apart from their usual services, they also concentrate on the R&D because they are constantly improving the product. And this was possible because they have made agreements with top class universities like Stanford, MIT, and IITs. And apart from this, some of the companies have also agreed to help them out in the research, and these are the companies. And they have an expert in-house technical committee that's headed by Professor M.K. Mathur and also by Dr. Pooja, who are pioneers in this field. And also a committee expert that includes professors from IITs and from NIT and ISRO is there. And they help out in the designing process. And some of the successful collaborations, if you see, Stanford Jaipur knee, it's one of the famous things. And in 2009, it was awarded one of the 50 achievements by Time magazine. And Dow Chemical, they have helped them in, they are one of the pioneers in the polyurethane subject, and they helped them out in the research as well. At that time, there were not many projects that was being held, but right now, as of now, these are the research projects that they have undertaken. And some of the prominent are like the polyurethane foot by Dow India and MIT, and they have developed a device for upper limb prosthesis as well. This is done in collaboration with the Stanford University.
Jaipur Foot being so much into social innovation, it has practiced all its serving the it has always served the purpose. But still, they have some challenges that they're facing right now. Mainly, it's a hand designed product. So the matter of inconsistency, the trust and quality, reliability issues, that still lies with Jaipur Foot. Then another aspect in the competitive analysis, you saw that it's 850 grams, which is much heavier. The other counterparts are 350, 450, but it is 850. So it's heavier than its counterparts. So that is one of the main issues that Jaipur Foot is trying to do, that it will make a lighter weight version of what is available. Next is the international standard. They have not sought any certification from the international standards because their target group is the poor, the mass. They want to do free funding and serve them, but they have not sought any international standard. And also that for that reason they are not able to target the developed countries, because there you need to have a standardized product to sell. Another one is that keeping in pace with other prosthetics in the market. They have to constantly improve their product. They have to be at par in manufacturing and design with other products in the market. So, Jaipur Foot has found a way which is stated in the case. It is about collaboration with ISRO, where they are using the PU tool, and it has resulted, and they have actually implemented it. This agreement was in 2002 and this case is of 2003. So they have finally implemented it, and they have made a cost reduction of 40%, and the weight, it has become lighter to 350 grams, which is a big achievement, which brings them at par with their competitors. Then other additional features like fabrication time has increased, so the production and the operations are further optimized, which is anyways optimized in the operational. Then the material, the resistance is increased. It is again suiting all the requirements of all the characteristics that they are targeting, like squatting, kneeling, everything. So another collaboration they are doing with other hospitals. They are targeting other hospitals and increasing their outreach. So these challenges they are facing, overcoming this by these two methods. Post 2003, what has happened? They have there's a story on their blog, famous blog, that they do not offer tea because they want to save every single penny and help the poor. They want to, because the cost is 240 rupees. So even further, they want to minimize the cost to 140 and 40. So they are onto their message of service with science, philanthropy with technology till right now. They have reached 27 countries. In India only, they have opened 23 branches. They have tied up with many different foreign universities and Indian universities and with corporates for carrying out their CSR initiatives. They have also put in place the Jaipur hand. They are also helping now for the amputee cows. So they are venturing into as they are able to. And even then for sustainability, they have created a solar plant. So they have not stopped their innovation right for their one vision and mission. They have extended their support and the recognition from Time magazine. It's not a certification, but there's a recognition and achievement all over the world. Like, yes, they are doing some good work. They are innovating good products. And yes, it's still not quite affordable.
Good. Questions from the house? Everybody, including the guests from the other IIMs.
Maybe you already said it, and I'm sorry, but do you know if they do backup checks on the patients who got a certificate, if they're then checking in after, like, I don't know, a month or 2 weeks?
Yeah, normally the problem is they have these institutes in all the family. They're offering different services. They're